Hey, my name is Matheus. I take an English course at DUAP at Tapuã Unit in Vila Velha, Espírito Santo. And my teacher Isabella proposed in my class make a podcast to our course completion work. And I choose as the subject of my podcast politics, with a focus on the USA's presidential of elections of 2020, Trump versus Biden. And today I'm with Darren. So, please, Darren, present yourself first.
Well, thanks very much, Matt. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to both you and your class. My name's Paul Darren Jacobs, and I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, or Carolina do Norte, as you guys would say it in Portuguese.
Yeah.
So what I've spent 30 years of my career in the robotics automation industry, starting in my early years as basically a mechatronics engineer. Um, and then working through, and as you get older, they put you into sales, and so I do management for sales and selling the applications. Now, the company that I work for today, I'm just going to play a little video snippet to give you a general idea of the robots that my company basically sells. It's rather interesting. So this movie right here, I'll play this. And this is demonstrating lights out manufacturing for a pharmaceutical company, manufacturing custom-made pharmaceuticals, one pill for many pills, for a little bit of rave music there. So that's just a quick little glimpse into what I do as far as the job goes. So I sell that type of equipment. So it's given me quite an exposure to the COVID situation right now, since my business is incredibly. Yes, can you hear me?
Before I talk about it, yeah, I can. Before I talk about of COVID, I just have one question.
Okay.
Why did you choose this work? Like, what made you choose to be a mechatronic engineer?
Oh, that's a great question. I chose it because it was when I got into it 30 years ago. It was a very new technology environment. I always have had a choice of jobs to be in the forefront of technology. So robotics actually began about 35 years ago. So I've been in it from the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, crazy, cool. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
now about, oh yeah, you have a lot of experience in this area, right? So, because you.
Yeah. It's good to start out in a career where maybe you're a hands-on person, as an engineer would be. Actually, I had to fly all over the place. I put the first robots into Harley Davidson. They would bring me in to solve the problems and to get the robots working again. And then, like I said, with a career of that, many different types of of robotics, welding. I ended up, like I said, a good career. Normal progression for me is to go into sales and management after a long career of hands-on equipment.
Yeah. I got, sorry. Now, change the subject. In your job, about COVID and the relationship you have your job. How COVID-19 impacted your job, your work? Sorry.
Right. So, like I started earlier to mention, the effects on the business side has actually been a positive for us, because our particular technology, these are lab robots that are used in sample handling, and everybody that's trying to develop a vaccine for COVID is ordering our robot because it's the right robot
Yeah.
for that particular handling of the what we call a micro titer plate, a very small plate management. So it's our business is we're having the best year that we've ever had. Now, on the negative side of things, it's negatively impacted us. Obviously, everybody in my small company is working remotely. I was working remotely anyway because my company is based out of California in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Uh,
But what's different for me now is I'm unable to go out and actually meet customers face to face, which is an important aspect of my job. When I go out and visit with people that are interested in collaborative robots, it's usually I bring a robot with me, I set it up for them, we watch it operate, and we discuss it, and we look at the applications of those customers. So now, with COVID, we're actually limited on that ability to go out and visit people.
yeah. Uh, so you say about your expertise area too, and sorry. Uh, and you say you work from home before COVID, so it is like uh, it is easy. You think it's more difficult than being in California, for example, and work at the
Right. In California, I think they're having a worse time of it because my job is basically to travel and to go visit with people. So that's
oh,
normal for me to work out of,
okay,
a home office. But in California, they're not going into the head office of the factory. So there's a lot of there's a lot missed there. They're not doing as much as they were before. They're limited, and even in our production or manufacturing of collaborative robots, it's been affected because people are now manufacturing and have to keep a social distance between them while they're manufacturing. So that makes it a little more difficult. You have to have more area to work in, and fewer people can work in one area. So it's made it considerably difficult for them. Like I mentioned, I don't see the big difference. Other than that, I don't travel as much as I used to.
uh, a question: how is the process of because like it's so specific, like uh, uh each rubs no yeah rubs each
Each robot,
uh
yeah.
yeah each robot is made to the specific process, right?
It's one robot that's generic. It means it's the same robot for everybody. But
Ah,
what is
okay.
what is different is that every application is somewhat different. So the what we call
Yeah.
the end of arm tooling on the robot may be different. It may be using a gripper or using suction cups or pneumatic.
Ah,
Different types of what they have to pick up is obviously different, but majority of all of the applications are mostly pick something up, move it over here,
yeah.
let it go. So it depends on what you're picking up and what you're moving around.
But like is like how the process like the the pharmacy graduate say to you say we need this to make this, and you work about it like okay I have to do it, and you say to fabric, for example, factory to do to
Right.
make this
So the normal process is this. In manufacturing is done by manual labor majority of the time. People are making things with their hands, okay? Now, what
okay.
happens is when they want to automate to have a higher productivity, to make more items faster, to get rid of jobs that are like too repetitious, So what
Yeah.
they do is they look at the job, the workflow, and we come in and we look at with them, and we have system integrators. These are people that develop a turnkey solution. We're a robot manufacturer, so we sell to the OEM or the system integrator. The OEM system integrator goes into the factory and takes a look at their workflow and says, okay, you need this many robots and you need them to do this,
Um,
and then this will be an approach, and they can simulate it before they sell it, and they say you will eliminate all of these unnecessary steps, you will make more production, you will have less expense, the return on investment is relatively under a year, and then they're happy with that. They go ahead and proceed with that sale, and then that sale gets implemented by the system integrator when they develop the system and deliver it to the customer. And then they have to demonstrate to the customer that it works and that it does exactly what they said it would do.
so you go there, see how the people works, how the process is going is work,
Yes,
and you make the robot based on it.
exactly. Exactly. Now, my role like, with my company, as I mentioned, I'm more of an advisor. I'm somebody that has a lot of experience, as I mentioned earlier, in the robotics industry. So therefore, people want to talk to me and they want to listen to what I have to say. And then once I make my recommendations, then it works and people develop things and they deliver things. So
Mm.
I'm sort of a vendor of robots to system integrators that deliver solutions to manufacturing.
Oh, got it. Now talking about COVID and your country and your life. So, what the population of USA, like the Americans, think about quarantine? Like I don't know what the population majoritarily think, right? Like the opinion,
Yes.
majority opinion.
So as you know, we've just had a big election, and the uh, it's been very different. Everybody's view on COVID is is sort of right down the middle, 50%, 50%.
Oh
50%
yeah.
believe that the COVID situation, the problem is not as bad as everybody says it is. We have a problem, especially during election. Having a problem with COVID played very well for Joe Biden to win the presidency because it made it look like a big problem. It made it look like Donald Trump, President Trump, was not doing a good job when that's furthest thing from the truth. And so it gave them sort of the worse they could make the situation look, um, the worse it was for Donald Trump, and obviously bad enough to have this election now go into the favor of Joe Biden. So we have a problem in this country with the media, the mainstream media. I don't know if you have this problem in Brazil, but they don't always report the facts. They kind of
Yeah.
report more
Obviously, we have to.
opinion, and so it ends up they control the stories, they control the what actually they control what you listen to and the opinions that you think of America because that's what they want you to think. But there's another news outlet, Fox News. It's completely opposite than the other side, and so
Mm.
it's like two opposite opinions about what's going on, and so
Oh,
yeah, so for me, I feel like I'm on that other side, I guess, that there's corruption taking place, and that corruption is then um, now it's taken control of the government. Our country is now with the new party coming in, they're seriously considering socialism, and and we were based on capitalistic society prior to this. A lot of freedom, less government
huh?
intervention, and so now it begins. When President Obama was in office, he made a lot of moves towards this, and now it's going to recontinue. So it's really pushing things towards a more socialist type of government versus a democratic republic form of government.
So, yeah. Yeah, so the opinion are two separate, like two sides of the same view.
Right.
I got it. I understand this.
Yeah. So
Uh,
yeah, yeah. So
no, okay,
go ahead. No, I was just going
go
to
ahead.
say that it's still in controversy because
Mhm.
that we don't agree with the voting. That we feel that the voting process has been corrupted.
Yeah,
Why we would say that is because in some of the states that on election day were belonged to Donald Trump, um, they wouldn't allow, there were because of COVID there were absentee ballots or absentee votes that went in, and there was
yeah,
well over 300,000 votes, and they wouldn't allow Republican supervisors to look at the votes. They only wanted Democratic ones to approve them. So that already is a red flag, and that's not the way things should work. So now there are lawsuits involved, and rightfully so, because it's almost as though um, the election happened. Donald Trump won a state, and then because of COVID, the Democratic Party was able to go off and produce a bunch of votes and then count them themselves and not let Republican supervisors look at them and then win the election. So it's just not like any other election that's ever happened in my lifetime, for sure. Actually, in the history of the country.
yeah. It's strange. It is strange, right? For sure, it's strange.
Yeah.
Uh, and so again about the country again, the USA. So we know USA unfortunately is the most hated country in the world by COVID. And how do you feel being there? Like you say uh, some channels of news. I don't know the right expression. Okay, but some channels of news say one thing, others say other thing, and I think it's confused, right? So how you feel being there? And
Right. So a good explanation for the numbers is, like I mentioned, it's all very connected. Having worse numbers made it better for the opposing President Joe Biden. But
oh,
how can you get to this? How can you get to this? Basically, they counted many of the diseases that or sicknesses or people dying as COVID related. Some people were dying anyway. They were dying of heart attacks. They were dying of cancer. They were dying. They were going to die anyway. But they considered a
they
lot of these
check the
as COVID.
yeah.
So they grew the numbers. So there was an incentive for this from the government to the medical facilities. They would pay them for more COVID related deaths. So it's just that's corrupt. Also, it's really a skewed bit of information. I mean, as you're in Brazil here, I would imagine that you might think the things that I'm saying here are relatively conspiracy theory or crazy, but let's go and look into the next year and see how quickly COVID is solved. And then if it's solved relatively quickly, then you can smile and say, well, I guess, Darren was correct.
In yeah, in Brazil, people, I don't know, gossip, not gossip, but we talk about it too because we listen some people saying like by for each one die by COVID-19,
Mm-hmm.
the city government, the city, right,
Uh-huh.
city government like receive of the state, the Brazil government, if I 20,000, like 20,000 to recur, like to use, and because they changed the cause of the death. the cause of the die of the people,
Right.
because they receive money to say they receive they receive money to buy each to one. It's a little bit confusing, sorry,
That's
but they receive money to COVID deaths, and they change the cause of the death because it receive
right.
more money.
Right. If you look at past viruses throughout our history, there's been many other viruses, that we've had as a country, but none of them have ever been handled like this, quite like this. It really was a demonstration of control, being mandated to wear masks and social distance, and I don't really see anything sort of getting back to normal, unless they have a vaccine and all of this. But they really used quite a bit of fear. If you look at China, do you see the same thing happening in China where the virus was originated from? No, they're perfectly back to normal. They had a certain number of deaths and then they exported it to the world. And then guess what? They're perfectly fine now. So another point to make is I see that Donald Trump was really a fighter against the corruption of the country, which is on both parties, Republican and Democrat. And you saw how he felt that China was, um, taking too much money and charging too much and undercutting us in many ways. So all of the tariffs that went into place on China cost China billions of dollars. It was quite a big thing for China. So, you'd almost wonder if China got together with Joe Biden, who's friendly with China, and let's put a pandemic around the world and see how it all changes and get Trump out of office. That's another possibility, you know.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so
Let's.
so it's just is that about it? You have a couple more questions, or you want to wrap things up now, or
What? Can you
are you
repeat, please?
almost completed? You've got a couple more questions, or
Other question is what about COVID-19? Okay.
okay,
What do the population like? The population, the states, the government, the country government should do to reduce the contagion and the damage caused by COVID, like the damage in economy, in politics, and education,
right,
because
right.
I don't know if you the children went is going to the schools, but in some places in Brazil, some schools in Brazil, the children are going to school again. And how do you think about you can the USA
Hmm.
can do to reduce this damage?
Right. So there is a significant change in the way business is happening in the U.S.
Yeah,
Many of the
yeah,
biggest hit businesses are small businesses or restaurants, the food industry. You're unable to go out like you used to be able to go out and enjoy a meal. Now there's obviously you have to wear a mask every time you go anywhere. When you go into a
yeah,
restaurant, they won't allow you in unless you have a mask. They will only allow a certain number of people in a facility, and they have a lot of the seating closed off, so you can only sit in certain areas away, socially distanced from one another. And that's significantly different, and that is still that same way right now. They're trying to still have that in place, which is costing a lot of businesses to go out of business. They also the delivery business obviously went up for food, delivering fast food or pizzas
yeah,
or different types of food. Uber
yeah,
Eats that has increased. Now, regular businesses, a lot of people have to work remote, or they go into the company a couple of days a week, or when they go into their businesses, depending upon the type of work that they do, companies have had to set up desks farther apart from each other. Everybody has to wear masks. The only time you take
yeah,
your mask off is to drink something or eat something. Sanitize, wash hands. This is across the board. So this is still in force. You do see a lot of people that are skeptical, as I'd mentioned earlier, about COVID, that try not to do this, try to say, no, I don't want to do this. No, I don't want to wear a mask. The enforcement of it is not so big right now. I'm sure if, it could get worse and people could enforce it more. But that's how it's dramatically changed uh, the industry of the United States. Now, the only thing that has not dramatically been altered is the stock market. So that's kind of interesting because we're still doing very well in the stock market. And it just makes you wonder how that's possible with the negative impacts of COVID on industry.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Like, uh, I think, for example, we must to return with some things, but we must not return with other things because one person said one thing, and I agree with it, because when we are locked down in home, we get we get worse, right? Healthy, uh, mindly, mentally, I don't know, and physically, our body. So we have to return some things,
Right.
or yeah. For example, people using masks to make uh, physical exercises, activities, and this is not healthy. So what do you think about it? Like returning some things and don't return other things.
Right. I mean, obviously, we would want everything to return to normal. We would want normal to be no masks, a vaccine for a virus, and things the way they used to be. We don't want this mask situation to be the new normal. We don't want social distancing to be the new normal. I think if it becomes the new normal in society and in our culture, it's going to change our culture significantly. A lot
Yeah,
of interactions between people and their friends, being able to hug each other, you know, kiss on the cheeks, and drink together, party together, have fun together, and then not being able to do that is a significant
yeah,
change in developing relationships. Touching each other is an important aspect of a relationship. I think when you remove a lot of those things from our human condition here, it makes you feel less connected to one another. I think you feel isolated.
yeah,
I think you can go through psychological issues because of this, feel more alone. It's a different world. I don't want that to be the world.
yeah. And when you get at home a lot of time, you get sick easy,
Yeah.
easiest, like easily.
Right.
But for example, I asked it because I was watching. Do you know São Paulo, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And there in São Paulo, we have a park that called by Parque Ibirapuera. And we are talking about it, and I think they say like the park is locked. Anyone uh, entering the park, right? But around the park has 3,000 people. At, so don't make sense in some cases be locked because the it's better stay 3,000 people in a big area than in a small area. So it's more concentrated, right?
Hmm. Right.
So
So you would think with such an area that you would have very, very high COVID numbers. Is that the case? You have high COVID numbers in these types of
yeah,
concentrations?
yeah, a lot of people in a concentrated, right? And they were talking about of open the doors of the park because it was better that these people be in the park than be in the street and
Right.
around the park.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
people, uh, just people that like popcorn, barracks, the things. Understand?
Right. Right. So, yeah,
You have
I think it's
something to
better
say?
to be, well, I think, if you can get people outside and uh, it's going to be way better than having people locked up inside. Uh, and I think that it's better for the mind, better for the body. You have to get exercise. You have to get air, fresh air.
Yeah,
Very
for
important.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're talking about politics, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
We can the subject. So, about politics and with the mainly subject, elections 2020. Uh, a big doubt of me, and I think a big doubt for other people in Brazil, is how does the election work in USA? Because, like, in my mind, in my opinion, the system of USA is too confused, like it's too complex. How does it work?
Right. So we have the popular vote and we have the um, electoral college. The electoral
Yeah,
college are really per state. There's 50 states, and per state there's different numbers of electoral college votes. Some states
according to the
you can get
population,
all
right?
of them,
The
or
number.
yeah. So it's per state. You have to win 270 electoral votes to win the election. Back in the George Bush and Al Gore election, it was decided by one electoral college vote, and obviously Bush won.
Oh,
Now, as
I didn't
far
know
as
it.
sorry,
No, I didn't know it.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So, the problem is that it is somewhat confusing. They don't have a really good security on the voting process, and what that means is that a lot of the votes that have been subjected to be counted, some of them were based on dead people, people that were no longer with the living, and they voted in an election. So that's not very good. They have to come up with a better way, I believe, biometrics or some sort of you can guarantee that the one vote is coming from the
Yeah,
one person.
yeah. I will say it. I will ask it to you because, like, you are USA. You you send a man to the moon, right? Uh, and you use a manual process, manual, uh, manual counting of the votes,
Right,
right? It's a kite to the USA, right? Because I think, for example, in Brazil we use digital system, like we go there, write the number, and okay,
right. Well, you have to understand that America is a different country for sure, and in the rest of the world, we enjoy a lot of freedom. We enjoy. I mean, in
ah,
America, you
yeah,
can come
yeah,
here and you can start a business and make a lot of money. Okay,
the
become rich.
culture of the freedom.
Right, and I'm actually a living testimonial to this. I originally was born in the United Kingdom, and then when I was 9 years old, I immigrated to America and became an American citizen later in my 20s. So I have fulfilled the American dream. Being able to get an education and then get a job and work hard and then develop yourself. So that's very attractive to a lot of countries that people that want to immigrate here. And that whole system is built around our Constitution, our belief in freedom, and little government intervention is possible. Now, the problem is that not everybody here agrees. They want more government control. As you get more government control, you have less freedom. So
Yeah.
it's really it's very useful in our system right now that the system is not as good as Brazil's, is not as honest as Brazil's, or that it who does it benefit? Well, the guys that are trying to take over the country and create more government and a socialist government type. So it's just politics. I only mention these things because it's all points of view and just one person's perception over another. I mean, I don't, the one thing you don't do here is you don't get into heavy political debates with people because it's no good comes from it. It's kind of like a bad conversation, especially if it's one person believes completely the other news station and then the other person watches the other one.
Yeah.
You just can't find any common ground sometimes. So, you know what? I think a good lesson is to see. I want to really see how this election really does end out. There are multiple lawsuits already filed by President Trump's team against the election board, and if that goes away, well, then they won, and you have to just say to yourself, what's going to happen over the next 4 years? And then is there going to be a possibility to undo that or to see the badness and go backwards or change or what? Have no idea. All I know is that me personally, I benefited from the last 4 years of Donald Trump presidency economically. I saw growth in my
Yeah.
stock portfolios. I saw growth in my pay, less taxes. It all boosts the economy. So I was really a good benefit from
But
this. The only thing I think that the media really plays up with Donald Trump and it shows the world his worst side. They show him when he's saying he puts his foot in his mouth. He says the wrong thing sometimes at the wrong time because he's not a politician. I mean, I would rather somebody told the truth and put their foot in their mouth than somebody lie to me and sound so perfectly perfect. Because who do you believe at that stage, right? I'd rather believe the guy with his foot in his mouth. So, because he's not a politician.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Other thing again about the structure of the USA politics. Like, I researched some things of the structure of the political US, and I like how does the United States Congress work? Because yet it's a little bit confused to me. And like, I understand you have a hierarchy between them because like you have a senate, different kinds of chambers, different kinds of houses and assemblies. How does it work? Like they work both in general together
Okay.
or
Yeah.
work separate? How does it work?
Okay, so our system in the United States is a bicameral system, meaning a two-party system, two major party system, a Democrat Party and a Republican Party. Okay, now the
Mhm.
houses of government, you have the legislature. The legislature is divided into the Senate. The Senate, they have 100 members in the Senate. Two senators per state are there. Okay, and then the House of Representatives, they are based on population per state. So there's a different number of representatives allowed based on the size of the state. So in California, for instance, that's a very big state. They would have a lot
Yeah.
more representatives than Rhode Island or some small state on the East Coast somewhere. So that's a more that is representatives based on population size and size of geography. So um, then you have the executive branch, which is the president. The president has powers, obviously, to veto bills. Bills are created in the legislature, the House of Representatives. They're put forth, and then they go to the Senate for approval, appropriations, money, funding, things like this, and then they go from there for the president to sign. Um, if there's a judicial question involved, meaning is it against the Constitution or against the law, that's what the uh, Supreme Court is a branch, the judicial branch of government. That's a checks and balance. So it's actually, they interpret the law. They're not supposed to write the law or create the law. They're supposed to look at law that has been presented and make sure that it's constitutional, that it
Oh,
doesn't go against the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the United States is the highest law of the land. So you have those three main branches: the legislature, which is the House of Representatives, and the Senate. You've got the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court, and then you have the executive branch, which is the president. And the president has the power to veto a bill, meaning it could pass the House and the Senate, and he doesn't like it, and he says, "No, go back, start again, improve it. I'm not going to sign it." Okay, so you can see where in my opinion, it's very difficult to get anything done in Congress. It's
yeah.
they have, if they get a majority in one house, like they have a majority in the House of Representatives, that is Democratic, and then they had a majority in the Senate, which is Republican. They pass a bill from the legislature, the House to the Senate, it doesn't go anywhere, or vice versa. They argue and argue. What a lot of times what they end up doing, which I disagree with, is you could take a simple bill or initiative and say, I want to give more money to all of the people out of work during this pandemic, this COVID pandemic, right? That sounds like a
Yeah,
great idea. Let's pass some funding to give money to those people that are
yeah,
out of work. Okay. But the problem is they don't submit this bill for just that. They turn around, they put in pay raises for all these people in other governments. They put in money over here, money all over the place. And guess what? All of a sudden, it's a multi-trillion-dollar bill that's going to go everywhere but where it's needed, which is to the people. The people should have, they should have separated the issues, and they should have said, look, this is the most important piece. Let's just pass it on this. Forget all the other stuff. Nothing added, just this. But that's what the biggest problem is with legislation is everybody, in order to vote and to pass it, I want something for it. I want something for it. I need new roads. I need I need more
yeah.
pay raises for my government officials, and it's a mess. So I don't see how they get anything done. And the fact is, they don't get anything done. They really don't. It's very confusing.
Like, yeah, confused. But like, I think in some cases, like you said, the president should uh, building and what the other thing, cancel. How can I say? You said the president should cancel a legislation, for example, but it don't like is less freedom, not because uh, how can I say it? Like just some people control the like it will be able to be started like the laws and other things is are you think not?
No, what they were built for originally is they were checks and balances, and that what
Yeah,
that
I
means
forget it.
is, if you think about it, like for instance, if what's a good example? I mean, having one based on population, uh, in the legislature, the House of Representative, and then one based on equal votes per state. So it's kind of, that's a balance and that's a check. And they say in order for anything to go into law, it has to be agreed upon between these two offices. Okay, so that makes sense. Some people have there are more people in a state, so maybe they want a better opinion. They've got more opinions. They have more representatives per people, so it's a better voice. But then in the other one, it's a check saying no, just two per state, and we have to agree also. And then the having the court, the judicial branch, is another check. Imagine you had corrupt House and corrupt Senate, and they're trying to
Yeah.
change the Constitution and pass a bunch of law that is not constitutional, which is our Constitution is the highest law of the land. So then they pass it. It has to go past them, and they say no, it's against the law. We're not going to do this. Okay, go change it. And they'll say why it's against the law. And then you could have, that's why you saw in the news, it's so important to have Supreme Court justices that are balanced, that are not Republican and not Democrat, but balanced. So they're objective. They look at the issues, not at the party. Okay. They're looking to
Okay.
see how does this initiative apply? How does the law apply to it? So it's hard to be objective, but when you start to make the judicial systems political, well, guess what? Now you all of a sudden have three offices that are trying to pass laws that are against the law, that are all on one party. And then guess what the next check is? The president. Okay. Now, if you turn around and he happens to be in the same party, then guess what? Game over. There's no real representative form of government, because what will happen then is everybody from one party will be running the country. You understand that?
Yeah.
And so if you
Yeah.
imagine that sorry, let me just finish one thing. Imagine that
Yeah.
you
Okay.
had 55% of the country being Democrat and 45% being Republican, and majorities are all Democrat in all branches of government. There is no Republican anymore. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how they would vote. It doesn't matter what they would say or what kind of
Yeah.
ideas that they have. Do you understand that? Yeah.
Yeah, understand. And I will say about it. For example, you like the system and where you have just two candidates, like two particles, is right?
To
Republicans and Republicans and Democrats, just one, just two.
right, right.
You think it's better you have more options or not, or just two?
Well, it's
Because, like you said, it's too concentrated when some article win and the other is forgotten.
right. We do have another party, or some smaller parties that they don't count them anymore. But one of them would be a libertarian party, or an independent party. So
Oh,
they have some of those parties, but they're just not enough to do anything.
they have no power. Like
Yeah.
it's not part.
Now, if you look at other governments around the world, like I came from the United Kingdom, so they have a parliamentary form of government, which means a coalition government. They have a lot of different parties, and so I don't know how many they have, but a lot of different parties. So they have to, in order for them to pass legislation, they really have to get the different parties to agree to put forth legislation to get it through. It almost looks like a bigger mess, but I don't really know. I mean, I haven't really seen, what's going on. I know more about American government than I do, parliamentary form of government. But then, England is a socialist country, so it's different anyway. Government's government. It runs the country. People get what they get, pay taxes, and that's the way it goes. So it's just because America is, like I said, land of opportunity. It really truly is.
Yeah,
Big business has come in and pretty much dictated, who the representatives are, and passed laws that fit them. The idea originally was that it would be representative government for the people. Instead, it's turned into representative government for the corporations, which is not good, but it is what it is. That's what happens in the world.
Yeah, but for example, you said if you have a lot of parties, should be it get messy. But I think it's not because, for example, in Brazil, we have a lot of parties, but these parties are together in some
Hold on a
groups.
second. You got like a siren going past you. Is that what that was?
What?
Was it a big noise? Is that a siren outside?
Ah, yeah.
I heard things were.
Sorry.
All right, so go ahead. Say the question again.
Uh, no, it's because you said when we have a lot of parties, we should get messy, like, but I think it's not because, for example, in Brazil, we have a lot of parties, but these parties are together in some groups, and these groups are really voting. For example, like
Okay.
uh, the the center, the left, uh, right, center left, center right, the center.
Right, right. And I would agree with you that that seems to be a better approach, because you truly are then looking at um, different points of view. When you have a two-party system, I can see what you're saying. It's really they have a platform, it's their ideas, and it's going to be such a drastic change between one party to the other. It changes the whole look of the country just by who you get into this next term here. So it's a different set of rules now. If Joe Biden is the president, pretty much everything that Donald Trump, all the successes that he made this year, and he made a significant amount. And we didn't even get to talk in debates about international policy, how he it got peace talks and three nations at peace with Israel, signing agreements, peace accords. None of that was reported in the mainstream media. All the successes have been put away. Cutting down on illegal immigration and all of that. That was a big one. That was a success. That's been a success. Less from that. The economy rising,
Mhm.
everything, tax cuts, less government, all those things boosted big businesses. They were not reported. So, whatever news you're getting from across the ocean there to you is not completely accurate. And I just tell people, look, do your homework. Don't just take everything I have to say as gospel, but read the facts. Go and take a look at the facts and understand different people's perspectives. And then when something doesn't feel quite right, then you can say, you know what, it doesn't feel quite right. So, follow the money, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Other thing, because to me, is strategy. What's your opinion about the indirectly election? Like you say, you prefer it will be directly, like every vote have to be counted, or you prefer indirectly, like you vote, the population, the do you know? Sorry, you vote and the delegates say, I did.
Right. Well, if you think about it, I mean, what's just happened is a perfect example of what we don't want to happen. And that is that if you went to, like on the election trail, you have to understand Joe Biden was not he was nowhere advanced in the election at all, even within his own party. There were other people that were beating him hands down. And all of a sudden, he was elected then to be their representative. Okay, and with that, he took Kamala Harris as his partner there. Now, so they all got together and everything like that. Now the way that the voting has done is, like I said, it was very important that to cast your vote and have it be counted. When you start bringing in absentee ballots, and there's no real controls, and you're not letting both sides see verify the signatures, verify the person's alive, verify that it's a real vote, then the voting is off. It's just not accurate at all. Okay. Now, what's very sad is what's happened is because of that additional voting that took place at the end, all those absentee ballots, even Senate races, like where the early in the election day, at the end of election day, it was done that the Republicans would retain the control of the Senate, and the Democrats retain control of the House of Representatives. But then, not only did Trump lose because of the bad voting afterwards, but also more representatives lost, or more senators lost. And so
Yeah.
now, guess what's happening? Exactly what I told you. Now they're going to have probably the House, probably the Senate, and probably the presidency. So look out. Here it goes. That's what's going to happen. So
How was the voting system in your state, North Carolina? Just a
it's the same.
curiosity.
Yeah, no, it's all the same. The only thing that's different is what's different is there are states' rights, and then there's like state laws and federal law. Federal law comes from Washington, D.C., the government, okay? And state law comes from whatever state you're in. And there's 50 states, okay? So some of the states can pretty much write new laws. Now, what some of the states did, the ones that you saw were contested, meaning, late at the end there that gave Biden the presidency, they changed their laws right before election. And they said, hey, guess what? We're going to change now, and we're going to allow people to vote for 2 weeks after the election. Well, they never did that before. Okay. So what they did is they pretty much set up the laws. They were run by all these contentious states were all run by Democratic governors, and they needed to have a Democratic governor to
Yeah.
approve the law for the state to be able to make these rules. So it just all smells bad. Not good, you know?
Uh, and what do you think U.S. can improve politically? Like in some specific thing or generally like specific thing as education or relationships with other countries, economy, everything, anything.
Say that again. I'm sorry. Did you say what are the best things that Trump did, or what? What did you say?
No, uh,
Yeah.
should be. But what do you think U.S. can improve politically or in some specific area, like in education or economy, whatever?
Yeah, no, the look, we were doing just fine. I think what America needs to do is America really should um, solve the problems in America before they go out and try to solve the problems for the rest of the world. I think, leading by example, we have homeless people in America. We have starvation in America. We're a very rich country. We have got a lot of problems in America. We've got corruption in America. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah,
cities are there's high crime and problems, and you know what? You need to solve those problems. If they could finally get solved, you could take care of people, and then you could turn around and show the rest of the world as an example, because a lot of people look to America for this with the freedom, and then say, hey, we did it. We solved our problems this way. We made a better life for everybody. And so we want to share this life for everybody with everybody, and it takes hard work and a lot of, it's not like everything is free. You have to work for things in life. But I'm just saying, I think America could be a better example to the world at doing this. I don't feel that. I think a lot of countries would laugh at us when they look at our politics and they see, it's drama. It's just like a reality TV show. It's ridiculous sometimes.
yeah, it is. It's really, is it true?
Yeah.
Uh, for example, mm, now I feel Joe Biden promising a lot of things. Do you think he will able to keep his promise, his promises? Like, I think he promises a lot more than they can keep on doing.
Sorry, say that again. Things were going off. I just muted my phone. Say that question again.
No problem. No, Joe Biden promised a lot of things. And what do you think? Like, he will able to keep his promise or not? Do you think he can keep this promise? Like, return to Paris Agreement, uh, control COVID, a
No,
lot of things. The populate, for example, protect the directs, protect LGBTQ, yeah, or other people. A lot of things he says will do. I think he's too much.
so my thoughts on that is really Donald Trump did more for the African American community than anybody has up to now. He actually did more, and there were more jobs and better things happening than the 2 terms of Barack Obama, who was an African American. So there's many African American people that would say, "Hey, this guy did great for us." Okay, now you might
Okay.
want to understand that the Democratic Party actually they were formulated from the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, that was on their watch. That was from their side, and they always try to pin that on the Republican Party, but it wasn't. It was they were Democrats. Okay, so it's amazing how the spin the story changed the story.
Yeah.
Brazil might think, oh wow, white supremacy, Ku Klux Klan was a Republican thing, but it was a Democratic thing. Okay, Abraham Lincoln
Oh,
was a Republican. Abraham Lincoln did more for the slaves to free them and end the Civil War and do all of that stuff. Okay. Now, if you look at Joe Biden, look at his son and his family. They're billionaires. They've made all sorts of money since he was the vice president. Okay. Now, this came up. There's proof. It's a story. It's bad, but his son, with no qualifications at all, started making almost a million. Imagine making almost 5 million real a month. Imagine, right? And you have
yeah.
no MBA, no college like this, or no experience, and you're on a board of a, Burisma, the Ukrainian oil company that was corrupt, and it just so happens that your father uh, got the
Honestly,
people that were investigating the corruption fired, withheld money. I mean, this is corruption, but yet there's that. There's the money from China. These are all in the normal news, but they didn't make it to the mainstream media. And so the story, guess what's going to happen now? Absolutely nothing, right? Now, if this was Donald Trump's story, guess what? He would have been impeached and out of office already, okay? But it wasn't. It was Joe Biden and his son. So, you know, basically, he's a 47-year long career politician. He says whatever you want to hear, okay? He will make promises and promises and never keep them. He
yeah.
hasn't solved these problems. He's a typical politician. The only reason why get this, the only reason why I liked Donald Trump was because I felt like the vote didn't matter. Okay. I felt like, it's either one party or the other. They're always going to do what they want to do, and our vote doesn't count. I never thought we could impact the election. But that 1 year or 4 years ago, when everybody voted, guess what? We put a guy into office that wasn't a politician. He was a reality star, a businessman, like somebody else says what's on his mind, inappropriate. I get all of that, right? But he had a good heart and he tried and he did many good things. But the machine, the structure, both Republican and Democrat hated him. Okay. And why? Because money could not corrupt him. Money could not change his opinion. Okay. Because why? He's a billionaire. He doesn't need money. He was doing it for another
Yeah,
reason. And he didn't even
it
take
makes
any
sense.
money. He didn't take any salary while he was president. Zero. He worked for free. Okay. So I'm sorry, but I just see things going back to the way that they were. Government's back in charge more. Corruption's going to get greater. It's just the way that it is, and that's the way it is around the world. Okay, the blueprint for
Yeah.
the world, in my opinion, is China. Okay, you're going to have the haves and the have-nots. No middle class. It's going to look like the storefront's going to look like USA, and everything's nice and happy and all this stuff, but you've got people that can't raise themselves up with education or anything. You've got socialism. So, okay.
Okay. So I think this is all. Thank
Okay.
you so much for participating. Do you have any question or you like to say something
Yeah, no,
before
like
we?
I said, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Sorry if a lot of my comments are obviously
Oh,
I'm
no
one
problem.
here, but I try to
Let's
be
continue.
objective, and I don't think this way because I don't know any better. I've been around quite a bit. I'm 55 years old, so I have some knowledge and some experience. But I
Yeah.
just think you need to be objective. I don't think you need to just take one answer from somebody. I think you need to gather data. I'm very much robotic in my nature, analyzing computer. I listen to multiple things and then I say, well, this seems to be reasonable. This is what I
Yeah.
would feel. And so that's the way you should do it with any education. I just tried to be somewhat objective, but at the same time, I didn't want to make it sound like, miseducate you as far as my point of view goes. So thanks for the opportunity, Matt. I appreciate it. You
Thank
take
you.
care of yourself, okay? And with that,
Yeah, you
say
too.
ciao to you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Take
Bye.
care. All
You
the
too.
best.
Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks.